Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join Jack Stafford and Deborah Littleboy, members of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between mysticism, theosophy, religion, UFOs, all of which are really only aspect of the self-same quest for truth. Please note, this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Sarah Lloyd. Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you. We've had many interesting guests, lots of psychics and UFO specialists, but you're a first in your category.
Wow, that's it. Yay.
So how best to describe you? Is it a spiritual PR agent?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm an intuitive PR expert, alchemist. But the more I've been working on this or working in this space, it's becoming very clear that there's more to this than just PR.
So what does it do? How do you do it on a day-to-day basis? Give us a little rundown.
So I guess on a day-to-day basis, I work with a series or handful of clients that are spiritual coaches, leaders, teachers, well-being, health, etc. And what I tend to do is kind of check in. I have access to lots of kind of journalist facilities, so I can see what's coming up and who are looking for comment and things like that. So a lot of the things that I'm doing is working with getting spiritual teachers placed in mainstream publications, in kind of big spaces that perhaps they would never normally be seen. And that's an interesting journey in itself. So
And so you're drawn to it. I mean, did you feel that there's a lacking spirituality in the mainstream? Do you have a bigger cause behind it, or how did you come? What's your backstory?
okay, so I guess my backstory is I when I was a child, I was deeply spiritual, played with crystals. I spoke to people that weren't there. I think a few of us have been there. And I was very kind of imaginative and yeah. So as a child, I was very connected. Um, and then, I got into school and I moved into moved into college and then just um basically fell into PR. I work in I live in Farnborough, and I worked in a very defense oriented business to start with, and basically just found myself working through lots of kind of masculine businesses in the PR department. So whether it was, working with aircraft and the defense industry, or it was moving into, I worked for national tax. I worked in the technology industry. So I've worked in lots of, and construction. So I think I've worked in every single masculine kind of industry doing public relations. And I was always the blonde curly thing in the corner playing with glitter and stuff. But as the guys would call it. So I built a career in corporate PR for like 20 odd years. And then what it was that really cracked me open is I had my first daughter, and I was suffering. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I think what I found is once I connected the dots and the sliding door moments that led me to the point, I realized that I've been on the wrong path for quite some time. I was experiencing dizziness and vertigo and proper high functioning anxiety in my business, in my corporate career. But it was only when I had my daughter it really kind of cracked me open. And I returned to work pretending like I didn't have a daughter, didn't appreciate that I wasn't very well. I suffered with quite bad postnatal depression. And then it was when my second daughter arrived. She was, so there's 2 years between them. I realized that she was the one that was sent to really kind of, come on, you haven't quite got there. We need to get there now. And basically, she was the one that made me change my whole life. Her coming along, I went on a women's retreat to Glastonbury. I'd never really sat in a circle, never really connected with any the feminine parts of myself, which is kind of why the masculine piece is quite important. I'd never really connected with the true feminine, the nurturing feminine piece. It was always kind of on a surface level. And I sat in circle for a week, cried, moved through a lot of the depression, realized that I just couldn't continue as I was. And basically within 6 months I was made redundant and Indigo Soul was born. And during that time I was taught, I went to see an energy healer who basically connected me with the angels, and I was given the guidance to go and work with energy. So I went and trained, and this was kind of all at the same time. It was a really big parallel journey to just kind of get to that point where I was made redundant and didn't work in that corporate environment anymore. I trained to become a Reiki master and started working with energy. And then it was kind of the people that were then in my space at the time were also helping me to realize that cause and effect, universe, and working with the universe, working with our intuition, tuning into something bigger than ourselves. And that then enabled me to start to connect my own dots. And now I help clients to do that with their story. I get them to fall in love with their story. I get them to unravel any spells they've created around their stories so that they can then share from that place of love and truth and integrity.
That's beautiful, yeah, because we all think of psychics as, they don't need to be don't need to be told anything, they can find it because you're psychic, you have all the answers, but that's in no way true. And yeah, that's so interesting how you're helping people and you're in service to others, which is really connects with the Aetherius Society. But I just wanted to go back to the because just before you came on, Deborah and I were talking about uh, women and how we live in a male-dominated world, and we seem to be guided to push for a to help the women's movement, and Deborah has is becoming being moved into the center of this, and it really ties in, doesn't it, Deborah?
Does. And before we came on air, and you were saying about Jack being in um, Austin, and you went, "Yeah, of course he is," and just to put that out for people that might be listening to this podcast that don't really understand what I've just said there in connection is that the more that you do go into that, like tune in, the more you realize that coincidences really are. It's just a word that we use because we don't understand what has caused the effect of. And yeah, we all have to be in a certain place at a certain time and connect to actually help the bigger plan. So yeah, no surprise that you've gone out to Boston. It's no surprise that Sarah wasn't very well when she was due to join us 6 weeks ago, whenever it was. No surprise at all that we're all sat in the room here in this space, in this time. Um, just discovering where, if you like, discovering more dots that we will later be able to join up. And if it's anything like my journey, I'm really usually too keen to join the dots and end up like drawing a giraffe when it was actually a ball. So there's a lot of I have to do like a whole lot of unraveling. They're trying to hammer a piece of the jigsaw in place just because I think just because it ought to go there. I shave a bit off there and wiggle. But yeah, no, the plan's perfect. It's just that I, for one, aren't. And so sitting here, and you saying that just before we came on, I thought, yeah, but this is exactly it. This is exactly as it should be. It's perfect. In
Yeah.
its imperfection, it's perfect. And yeah, it's beautiful.
I think
So,
also working in this space as well, we always need that little reminder, don't we? It's kind of, yes, yes, of course. I have to come back to myself to remember.
Yeah, it's because old habits die hard.
They
Um,
do.
but they do die.
Mm.
If you can find something else to fill that that redundant space, something higher to fill that redundant space, then those habits will dissolve or um, transmute into something which is far better. But we needed those habits to transmute them. Yeah, wonderful. Very truly wonderful. Can I jump in and ask you to tell us about your Amplify program? 'Cause when we last spoke off there, you were saying you hadn't actually put that into so Amplify Your Business, isn't it? So you were saying you were putting together this workshop that hadn't actually launched. Is it now launched?
Well, I think this is a classic case of allowing the universe to give me more guidance. Because what's actually happened is I I cancelled the London workshop, but I am hoping to redo that in person. But what I have replaced it with is a circle. And I opened the doors to the PR circle last month. And what I've realized is, along with the seasons and the cycles, women, entrepreneurs, and people in the spiritual space, we work with energies. We work with the energies of the seasons. We work with the energies of the moon. And it's no different in a PR situation. Like, it sounds really like trying to bridge that gap to something that's quite corporate and masculine, but PR is essentially telling stories. If I boil it right down to how I like to simplify it, it's when someone else says your stuff is good. It's as simple as that. And I think, we have created these big, these big stories around, this importance, but at the end of the day, it's a storytelling thing. So, there are going to be stories that come up at this time of the year that are very relevant because, we have a change in season. It's a death and rebirth season. So lots of conversations come up around grief and renewal and the phoenix type energy and wintering, going in and, of taking stock. Then we move into the springtime, and it's about planting seeds and nurturing them and seeing how they arrive. And it's kind of I've noticed that. So long story short, I created the circle as a year-long program that has breaks as well because once upon a time before COVID, I had an ongoing evergreen membership, and I found it difficult to hold space and give everybody as much as I really wanted to give them. So where I've got to with it is we are journeying together for 3 months and then we pause for a bit just to allow the energy to settle, the work to do what it needs to do. So we're not always pushing, it's about being. So I've created this kind of 3 months of actual doing and pushing and, putting yourselves out there, and then a month to kind of allow all that to then come back. So yeah, the PR circle is my new kind of amplify your business offering. But also I have a free masterclass called Amplify Your Business, which talks about kind of my approach as well. So yeah.
So if I'm understanding this properly, you're dealing with people in the northern hemisphere only. Your
Um,
clientele are northern hemisphere.
I have worked with people in Australia and the US as well. So at the moment, it's geared up for Northern Hemisphere English speaking, but there is room potential. I'm open to receiving clients wherever they feel called to come. So yeah, I would hold calls in the evenings as well for the US and also Australia in the mornings.
Because where my thought was coming on, Sarah, is that the if so we're in spring, you and I, we're in England, we're in spring, we're doing all look, the seeds are coming up, we're pushing this forward, this is all fresh and beautiful. And but our counterparts in Australia are getting ready to have a snow through the winter. So what you've then got is almost like the yin yang thing going on, which I
Yeah.
actually find really exciting. I mean, you make it very balanced for you,
Yes.
because you'll be doing both of those things at the same time. But you'd have to. It's almost like I see your hemispheres of your brain, and like like doing a little crossword right through the middle.
Yes.
But yeah,
I
I
think
just
that's
think that,
important, isn't it? The balance as well. It's like it's not just limited to the seasons of the the hemispheres. It's also
mm,
balancing with the masculine and the feminine as well. Because I feel like that it was kind of evolving as I was creating it. And it's
mm,
funny you say that. This time last year, I had two Australian clients, um, and they were going into their summer, but they were also they were going well, it was hot there, wasn't it? So
mm.
it was interesting experiencing that. But like, yeah, amazing.
So how do you get your clients? Well, how do you actually market you to bring people to you?
Um, it's interesting because I was allergic to marketing for such a long time. I don't know whether it was because of my corporate experience or whether it just felt uncomfortable telling everyone that I was great, because that's bottom line, that's marketing, isn't it? Come away with me, I'm amazing, I can do this for you. I found that really uncomfortable for me. That's why I always preferred PR, because it was always about somebody else saying it. It felt more comfortable, it felt more realistic, it felt more in integrity for me. With regards to marketing my own business, I guess I primarily focus on Instagram because I like the vibration of the platform. Um, it's you can share video, you can share um, beautiful imagery and words. I always found that that's always been my favorite place, I guess. So I would always like have a social media strategy, but also with regards to marketing, I'll probably send out newsletters as well. But what I found is people just tend to find me through word of mouth, or mainly, think mainly through social media. But and I think and also they would have seen me in magazines and things as well in the past.
Look, so if there was a general, and I know this, even as I'm asking this, it sounds like a stupid thing to ask, but I will continue. So if there was a general thing when somebody that's is spiritual and they're trying to promote what they know and share what they know, but also need to put bread and butter on the table and pay their mortgage, because hey, that doesn't it doesn't matter how spiritual you are, you still got to have money to pay the bills, haven't you? So they come to you, so they've arrived. What would be the first thing that they would say? So what are they looking for from you? How does that opening? Is there a general opening?
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
okay.
I know what you mean. It's like, how have they found their way to me? They've normally got something they want to promote. So, yeah, and it's through the more traditional route of, I've got a book, I need to promote it so people can read it, or I've got a new retreat that I'm doing. Can you help me share it? It's normally something that's driven them through the door, which I find really interesting because that is quite old. It's kind of old school thinking, because you can just promote yourself at any time. You don't need to have a product or a service to hang your hat on. I mean, it helps, but
Mm.
it's normally that's what's driving people to me. I'm launching a new offering. Can you help me get my word out there? But I think it's interesting because I had another client who she wanted to um, launch her mediumship business. And I mean, she started from absolutely nothing. I helped build the website, create the funnels and things like marketing and, but where we had real success with her was the the universe was clearly sending us a sign to build her visibility. So she was we were securing PR opportunities to appear in magazines and newspapers very, very easily. So I felt like we were being divinely guided to get her out of her comfort zone, because she is a self-confessed introvert, which many spiritual teachers are, but also feeling comfortable with what her medicine was. So I think what I found is with PR, it's a really gentle way to talk about your services in a way that feels comfortable, because then other people are then talking about your services. But it's also about believing in your own story, believing in your own services. So what actually happens is, yes, I get PR coverage, but there's this whole big transformation that you go through, because you start to feel comfortable, one, with your story. And sometimes these stories have power over you because they've defined a part of your life, or something's happened to you where there's deep trauma. And what I found is the more people share those stories from their scar as opposed to their wound, the further that story moves away from you, the less it defines you, the less power it has over you. But equally, it then inspires and educates other people who might be going through whatever it is that you've shared. If that makes sense. But which,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the beautiful spiritual piece, I think. That's the medicine of the work that I do, I guess.
We were speaking to a chap, I've just had to look at his name down here, Dustin Grimmel. And I'd actually made a note for somebody else that we're going to be speaking to today, but it's just fits so beautifully into what you've said. He wrote a book, and it was called The Healing Book. And it was on a therapy called bibliotherapy. And if I've got that wrong, Dustin, I'm so sorry. But but he had come to this therapy, which is like from the Greek, that you heal yourself through your story, through stories and from other people's stories, and comparing stories and looking out and seeing what's actually happening from that safe place of one step back, where
Yes.
you're not stabbing that wound, because you can only feel the pain if you're stabbing the wound. But if you step back from it, you've got compassion for somebody else going through it. And so we had a lovely conversation about that. This is no new thing. I mean,
No.
and we know this. I mean, women have been doing the washing and sharing their stories, since they've been doing it on the stones in the river. So that's, it's a very ancient and a very healing way of making sense of this world, the way that this life, how things fit together. And for me, my heart opened when I saw that PR, which is usually a bit hard nosed. I'm sorry to say that, but
No, it really is. Yes.
But to have that the lacquer of PR to have just been sort of taken away, and the essence of what PR truly is what you're giving and what I'm hearing from you. And it is a case of, this come down to the river with me, Deborah, and let's do our washing together and talk about what's happening in the tribe, what's happening in the village, what's happening with little Joey that keeps running away, what's happening, what dealt with that. And so for you to bring that bridge, you had to go through. Sorry, this is me. This is not the Deborah show. Good job Jack's not here, beating me over the head with some book. But anyway, he's not. So
This is lovely. I love this.
Oh, he's
Deborah,
done.
rein it back in.
Did you just hear what I said, my Jack?
I hear
Oh,
everything, Debbie.
oh no. Anyway, I'm not stopping now just because you've turned up. The just because you think it's your show. Um, so what I'm saying, Sarah, is that you had to go through, you had to learn the structure
Yeah.
because it's important to have structure. We've got a body that is built on a skeleton for structure. Colors would be jellyfishes, and so so what I see is that you've got that structure in place. It bent you pretty much out of shape, but it gave you that framework to actually bring the heartfelt expression. What's important, the way that the earth moves, the way that everything here actually works, and you're weaving that in. You're a very special person.
Oh, thank you. That's so lovely to hear.
It's just, you're a very special person. What I was expecting to hear from you is that, oh, people just turn up at my door because blah, blah said. But of course, no, that's the jellyfish approach. You do need the structure in which the structure of the tree to hang the other bits on. So you've actually done that. And here you are now, and it's wonderful. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm not allowed.
Okay, well, as you don't want to say anything, I'm going to ask another question then.
Yeah, go ahead.
As you know, Jack and I are members of the Aetherius Society, which is a highly spiritual, religious organization, bringing the truths from higher echelons, from cosmic masters, cosmic messages, to help humanity raise its vibrations, live in peace and harmony, and ascend to other planets. So that's quite a highbrow route. So if you were to be our PR lady, what would you be saying if Jack and I were at the higher ups? And we're just members. But if we were the higher ups, and working with you, what would you be saying? What we could do to bring our beautiful messages of truth out into the world without, and this is the biggie, without losing the integrity. I don't even need to say that to you, Sarah, because of what you've just said. Yeah, it has to come from our heart. But what we're asking people to swallow is some quite uncomfortable truths. Because truth is not all, it's not all airy fairy. It's very much to take responsibility. So put you on the spot. Over to you. Tell Jack and Deborah how we can promote the Aetherius Society. Just so I'm looking for a freebie off of you, please.
That's fine. I mean, I would just continue to, first of all, continue to do what you're doing, continue to show up and speak about the work that you do. And that it isn't just about getting a piece of coverage in the Daily Mail. That helps, but that's where I guess I coach clients to fall in love with their story. So it might be that the story that we go into the Daily Mail with has absolutely nothing to do with the society. It's not a 2-page spread on the society. What it is, it's a story about what led you there, why you are now doing the work that you do. That's the important bit. It's not the book you wrote. It's not the product that you're selling. It's the journey you took. That's the important bit. That's the people, when you pick up a storybook, you don't go, oh, well, that's the end. Brilliant. You enjoy the journey. And I think that's the important bit. So it's about telling the stories that led you to the point that you're at. I just got the knowledge, or the elbow in my back there, just to tell me that's the right approach. But essentially, it's like, tell you would have had a career or you would have lived a life before the life you live now, because we have many iterations as we move through this mortal plane, right? So it would be a case of picking which story do you think is going to inspire, educate, and connect people to the message of the society. So it could be that it's a message, it's a story that you were living 5 years ago before the pandemic, and that's how you found the society. Or it could be that you had, so for example, one of my clients was Diana Cooper for a while, and she's been working with the higher echelons for many, many years, but it was I mean, I talked about this in my own story. It was the postnatal depression and that breaking point that led me to the work that I do now. And that's the bridge between the work we're doing in a spiritual capacity, but it's also the bridge to the mainstream. So you kind of need to remember what mainstream life you had and that connecting point, and that's the dot connection. And it's that point, you'd be sharing that story from your scar, or you know wherever it is. But I feel like that we would need to, for the society specifically, whether it's an individual that runs it or whether there's a few personalities that you pick out and you focus on those people, would tell their stories in the mainstream in that way, if that's what you felt was right. And the other option, or the other thing that I often recommend, is showing up in other communities. It's borrowing audiences, it's showing up on other podcasts, it's features in magazines that are in alignment. So, you have two kinds of storylines. You have the storyline of you 5 years ago and how you were living, because, you know, we're not born like this. There's a point that's taken us to this point. It's the sliding door. Um, and then you have the society itself, and there's magazines that will cover and be interested in the work that you do as a society. So that was a really long-winded answer. But
No,
I
that was
see it as
good.
there's two, like you were talking about the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, there's always two. Well, I always see three storylines that are important, because it's like a tarot reading, for me. You have the past, and they're the people you're trying to draw into this life and awaken. You have the people in the present moment that you're sitting in circle with, that are doing this work in different modalities and different ways, and they're kind of your community, and they're where you'll show up in their spaces. And then you have your Everest, as I call it, which is, your stretch goal, or your higher echelon, or where you want to go next. And often we don't know what that looks like, but I think that's where the guidance comes in. It's once you've taken care of those two, that Everest moments takes care of itself, if that makes sense.
It does. And I'll come to you, Jack. Jack has just, in the last couple of weeks, has decided that we need to be doing crossovers with other podcasters. Now, that word crossover, I'm just using it because I don't really understand what that means, but I saw it on an email that's gone out to many people. And so what you were saying there is joining in and sharing with common a common theme, but wouldn't be like directly aligned with where you're going. So looking for common threads within things which on the face of it might not be common at all. So is that why I've got that whole thing of emails come through, Jack, from people that I've got no idea what to do with?
Yeah,
And
we
they're
were
saying to
focused
me,
on.
Deborah, I'm really pleased that you want to speak to me, and tell me what it is about my work that you love so much.
Well,
And
we
I'm
reached out to UFO YouTube channels, but do you think, Sarah, there's another group we could reach out to, or a different overlap that we haven't seen?
There's so many spiritual coaches and teachers out there. I think it's a case of there's I feel like if you like bring people on to speak on your podcast, that the energy exchange is, speaking to people that have their own podcasts and their own spaces that are reaching different audiences that might be interested in what you are working on. So I think maybe don't limit it. I
Mm,
feel like being the thing that I always say is just be open, and whatever wants to come will come and
mm,
will be exactly what you need. I think when we try to force something, I've seen this happen. And so like I've had people come up and they'll turn up and they'll say, I've got a new book and I want to be in Forbes. And you're kind of, well, you're limiting it, aren't you? It's great to set an intention, but I think
mm,
also let go of it. Release attachment to the outcome, and then whatever wants to come up will come up. And it's a bit like when I said about my workshop, I let go of that because the reason why I let go of it is because it was due to happen in September, and I'd set the date in probably June. And then I thought, hang on a minute, you're about to have the summer off, because the whole reason why you work the way you do is because you've got two small children. So it became hard and arduous, and I didn't really want to share it. I didn't really want to promote it. So I just thought, why am I making this difficult for myself? And I just let it go. And what came in its stead was the online PR circle, which feels so much more exciting and expansive. And I think that's the thing. It's like we have to let go of this stuff sometimes to allow
super.
the what needs to come.
It's hard to take your own advice, isn't it? You tell your clients,
So
resign.
hard.
Hard to drink your own medicine. Yeah.
I think again, that's why we didn't speak, because I have to say I was going through a bit of oh, maybe I should get a proper job. Maybe I should go back to where I came from. And, I get all the signs, like every job that I applied for was like, no, it's, I think I think we like to run into closed doors from time to time to really test it.
Mm,
And then you go, "Oh," and then you guys say something really lovely. And it's like, oh, yeah, this is why I'm actually here. And this is what I'm here to do. So you need the reminders.
well, it goes back to what Deborah said. I mean, it's the feminine, and it's the time of the rise of the women. So you're in a key position to help that.
I think also it's the rise of the feminine in the masculine too. I think that there is a big shift. I'm noticing a lot of my clients are actually awakened men.
Mm,
Um, I've been serving for the last 6 years, have been primarily women. I had one yoga swami who was very enlightened, but also I felt, yeah, it surprised me that this year I've attracted the masculine.
well, yeah,
So
makes sense. Yeah, we need to. We're all a mixture, and yeah, masters, and also just wanted to add that you're trying to bring spirituality into the mainstream, but and you maybe think of it in terms of probably as energy as well, but also publicity and everything. But what Dr. King said is he reiterated it so many times, is there's a spiritual energy crisis. That energy, spiritual energy, is a physical thing
mm,
in this society. We put it into batteries, we pray into batteries and release them when there's a crisis. So we need to generate the energy, and you're doing that by helping everyone by bringing spirituality into the mainstream. But it's generating units of energy, and that's
that's an
really
amazing way of looking at it, because I think that's the other thing we've had. If you look at, I mean, I know a lot of spiritual teachers don't read the mainstream media because it's too, I'm in the space and I'm promoting guys like you, but I don't sit there and read it because I know how energetically dark it can be in places. But one thing, like I talk about the Daily Mail, but if you've got a copy of the Daily Mail, the outside, I feel energetically, is not very nice. On the inside, that's where the light is. And I think that's I guess the calling, the purpose that I'm leaning into is we need balance in these things. We need the shadow, because we do, and we need the light. And if you guys are all like boycotting the media, then how are we supposed to enlighten everybody? It's kind of like if we, turn our back on everybody, then we're not really fulfilling our mission, I guess.
That's really true.
Yeah, sorry, Jack.
Oh,
You.
please go ahead. No.
It's just that we're told by Dr. King that we have to serve in the clutter, in the noise, in the, and then it's almost like we have to do our work, boots on the ground, roll up our sleeves and do it. It's not like the Sorcerer's Apprentice that you can just go, say a spell and it's all going to get
I
done.
wish.
No, you have to physically do it. But then, of course, you will pick up all that dirt and that grime that you're swimming in a poison pond. You're going to pick up poison. So we're so blessed. We've been given these perfect tools, very, very simple. Even Deborah's can understand them. So simple to cleanse your aura, to psychically protect yourself, to bring the energies in and through. You flush yourself out. So it's like coming in from a day's work in the garden and having a shower. You know what you've got to do to get clean, aurically, mentally stable. The tools are there. Do it. And not just once, you do it every day. You build on that routine, and that will keep you safe and sound. But the next day, no, you have to go swim in that poison pond again, because that is where the work needs to be done.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook group for practitioners, and a lot of people saying, "Why are you in Facebook? Facebook's awful." And I said, well, I think I see it like a big dirty city. That's where we have to do the work. That's where the light has to go. We have to be there in the clutter. And so, basically that's my long-winded way of saying, I agree with you about the Daily Mouse, Sarah.
Yeah. We have to, we're here for a reason, aren't we? And I think the more we can spread love and joy and, raise the vibration, we have to go to those places, shine the light there.
Well, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. So how can people find out more about you? Perhaps they want to work with you, they want to keep up to date with you. How can they do that?
You can catch me on Instagram. I'm Sarah Lloyd _is PR, or you can find me on my website, which is www.indigosoulpr.com.
All right. And if people want to learn more about the Aetherius Society, they can go to aetherius.org. Thank you.